Hello everybody, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I am trying to hit 100k on this channel by the end of the year, so please subscribe. Also drop a like on this video so it does better in YouTube's algorithm. Game 1 of Bucks versus Nets just went down, and it was a kind of a disappointment. At the end, it just seemed like Milwaukee was outmatched, and this was in spite of James Harden not playing more than 40 seconds of this game, because as soon as he got into the game, which I unfortunately missed because the first 2 minutes I didn't have the TV on, because normally games start so late that they're not on time, so they don't, you know what I mean. I was a little late to this game, and James Harden got hurt, and he tore his hamstring, or he aggravated his hamstring rather. So he didn't play this game. And in spite of that, the Nets won this game pretty convincingly. Now, the end score ended up being 107-115, but both teams, like third stringers and bench units, were in by the last 2 minutes of this game because it was out of reach for the Bucks. The Nets in this one, it started off looking very even, I'll say, because the Bucks did a great job of putting pressure on the rim because, of course, the Nets are not amazing rim protection-wise, and they also were not challenged defensively, which I found odd, and I was not surprised to see that it ended up flipping around later on in the game. But initially, Brook Lopez started this game, and he played quite a bit of time because the Nets were not challenging him. They were not making him step up in the pick and roll. In my series preview video for this series, I said that Brook Lopez was going to be a problem for the Bucks if he actually played a lot. He did play a lot, and I'll say offensively, he did so good at putting pressure on the rim on offense that it almost made me think, okay, maybe Brook Lopez has a real place in this series. But then the third quarter came around, and the Nets decided to finally make him play defense. On multiple possessions, they had some Joe Harris plays where they challenged Brook to step up, and he got a mid-range shot or two out of it. There was a play with Kevin Durant where Brook just dropped all the way out of the possession, and KD was able to make a pull-up jumper as a result. Brook had a late contest that wasn't terrible, but it was still a late contest. And there was also a pick-and-roll play with Blake Griffin, who had a phenomenal game for the Nets, by the way. But Brook had to step up on Kevin Durant this time, and Blake slipped to the basket. Kevin Durant threw a beautiful bounce pass, and Blake dunked it. Just not built to defend this team in the pick and roll. And in the first half, it was a relatively close game because the Nets didn't really challenge Brook in the pick and roll. But as soon as they started doing it in the second half, that's what really got them their separation. But there's another big factor in why this ended up being a win for the Nets in spite of James Harden not being there. And that is because the fucking Bucks could not make a shot to save their life from outside. They finish this game a whopping 6 for 30 from outside. So that's not good. That's not going to win you a playoff game in today's league, especially against a team as talented as the Brooklyn Nets are. 6 for 30. The only guy who shot well from three in this game, literally the only guy who shot above 30%, was Giannis. He shot 2 for 5. So if Giannis is going to be your best three-point shooter, it's probably not going to work out for you in the long run. Speaking of that, I mentioned Blake Griffin. He did a pretty damn good job defensively against Giannis. Now, I didn't outright rule out the possibility that Blake would have not terrible defense against Giannis, but I didn't expect him to actually play pretty damn good physical defense on Giannis. Now, Giannis managed to work around this for sure. He got multiple plays where he was just able to out-physical, out-athletic, out-length Blake Griffin, but Blake did a pretty good job defending him. That being said, Giannis did get 36 points in this game. However, he settled, or 34 points, he did settle for multiple jump shots from three, from mid-range, fadeaways, things like that. And overall, I think the Nets did a good enough job at swiping at the ball to keep pressure on Giannis while also not leaving open three-point shooters. Not that they necessarily were going to make them if they did get open three-pointers, but, it was something. They just did a good job defending Giannis, I think. Like, you're going to look at the box score and see 34, 11, and 4 on 67% shooting and think, oh, yeah, he had a great game. And he did have a good game, but, like, he wasn't as holy shit unstoppable as many people have said that he can be in the series. And I still think he can be. Also worth mentioning, Nick Claxton also played a good amount for Brooklyn, and he was also really good in those minutes defensively against Giannis. But overall, the Nets seem to have more control over this game. And another thing with those threes, Drew Holiday in this game was very up and down. He started off this game attacking the basket and, going at the fact that the Nets don't have great interior presence. But then he became really pull-up three happy, and Drew throughout his career has been a very inconsistent three-point shooter. He's mostly just a great mid-range guy and was not hitting his threes today. Chris Middleton with an absolutely pathetic performance. 6 for 23. Bad games happen here or there, but it got to a point where he was taking bad shots. And it's like, dude, you're already missing the good shots, so why are you taking these shots? It was kind of like, it reminded me a bit of Julius Randle in that round one versus the Hawks, where it seemed like it got to the point where he was just desperately trying to get into rhythm with the shots he was taking. And because they were not the best shots in the world, just gradually over time, the bricks started to pile up. That's exactly what happened in this game for Chris Middleton. Brook Lopez can't play. He just can't. Why the fuck did Jeff Teague get almost 14 minutes in this game? Please explain that to me. And don't say, oh, Dante DiVincenzo did not play, or he's injured for the rest of the playoffs. Bryn Forbes, Pat Connaughton, Chris Middleton at point guard, if you have to do that, that would have been significantly better. Literally every minute that Jeff Teague played, Pat Connaughton should have played, because he is both a better defensive player, a better three-point shooter, and sure, he can't do as much off of the dribble, but like, fuck, is Jeff Teague going to do stuff off of the dribble enough to put pressure on the Nets defense? Like, are we being serious right now? Jeff Teague absolutely should not get minutes in this series. That is not even up for fucking debate. PJ Tucker, I don't feel like he got enough minutes in this game. Did he have foul issues? No, he didn't even have foul issues. So he should have played more. He was pretty decent defensively, though I don't like that Kevin Durant is getting PJ on him instead of Giannis. I just think Giannis on KD is significantly better. That being said, there were multiple plays in this game where Giannis was really successful as a help defender. I think both of his blocks were on Kevin Durant with help defense. But regardless, Kevin Durant should be being guarded by Giannis. And Brook Lopez just shouldn't play. This was a lot of not great coaching decisions by Mike Budenholzer, and this is what I was worried about. And I said this in my Heat, not in my preview video for this series as well. Is that while we did see adjustments for the Bucks going into that series, the Heat did not play in a way that forced the Bucks in any way to make adjustments from there. So like the game plan from game one, the first minute of it to the last minute of game four was exactly the same for the Bucks, and that was fine because it was more than working. But they would, like, the whole Mike Budenholzer doesn't adjust thing, it could still be true because he still insisted on playing a lot of Brook Lopez. I'll say in the bigger moments when the game was still within reach, Brook did not play as much, and there was a lot of more small ball lineups out there. But regardless, like after the third quarter, Brook shouldn't have played, period, and he still did. So I'm very concerned about Milwaukee, especially being James Harden didn't play this game. And yeah, most games, they're not going to go 6 for 30 from 3, but the fact that the Nets didn't look terrible guarding Giannis, they didn't look great, but they didn't look terrible. The fact that Kyrie Irving had such a bad night jump shooting wise, he had multiple mid-range shots and really especially multiple open threes that did not go in. Like, this was by no means a perfect game from the Nets either. Kevin Durant had a good game, but it wasn't an amazing performance by him. Blake Griffin is really the only guy that I would say here that really stepped up past my expectation, other than a little bit of Mike James. But Mike James really only played as much as he did because someone had to play in place of James Harden, and unfortunately it was Mike James. But then again, he also did a fantastic job. He was creating off the dribble, hit a couple of three-pointers. He did a good job. He also grabbed 7 rebounds, which was surprising. But this was not a perfect game from the Nets. And James Harden did not play. And they beat the Bucks rather convincingly. So going into game 2, the Bucks need to go with PJ Tucker at power forward, Giannis at center, and I would go with Pat Connaughton as the shooting guard. You don't love that. By no means do you love that. Dante DiVincenzo would be a lot better, but he ain't here now, so it is what it is. But you need to go with that lineup. And I don't love that Pat Connaughton has to play like 30 minutes a game, but you're in the situation you're in. It's better than fucking Jeff Teague. That much I know. Have Chris be the fucking backup point guard. Do the rotation to where Drew is point guard, and then he sits, and then Chris is point guard, and then he sits. You know what I mean? Because both of those guys can handle ball handling duties. Of course, Drew is better at playmaking than Middleton, but Middleton is still a pretty damn solid playmaker and ball handler. Like, if you're putting Teague in there because you need someone to dribble, that's just a bad idea. It's just not how things should be going. But I also don't think that this series is like over or anything like that. It's just not a great look, to say the least. So just they need to come in a lot more consistent, a lot more ready with a different game plan in game 2. And I don't know what's up with James Harden and what the severity of his injury is. There's no real reports outside of just him not playing game 1 at all. So yeah. But that was game 1, I guess. Blake Griffin, again, I have to credit him because he had 18 points, 14 rebounds, multiple hustle plays, 4 for 9 from outside. 2 of those were pull-ups. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't have, like, Blake Griffin going 4 for 9 from 3 would not have been on my bingo card for this series. In fact, I figure that Jeff Green coming back would be huge for this team, and it probably still will be. But that was coming from the idea that Jeff would be a much better three-point shooter than Blake, and while he still is a much better three-point shooter than Blake, percentage-wise, or actually just this game in general, Blake was fantastic from outside. So if we can expect that from Jeff Green, or maybe Blake just gets the minutes because he was really good defensively against Giannis, at least relative to what you would expect, I don't know. That's an interesting situation. But Nick Claxton should play more, so there's that as well. And Bruce Brown, very interesting player. I've already been rambling too long, so I'm not going to elaborate on this too much. But yeah, that was that game. Goodbye.